Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. Super excited to be getting into a little bit of organization on today's video, or in today's video rather, and finally talking about how I plan my weeks. I definitely don't have it all together, but I am a big planner girly, so let's chat about how I plan my weeks. Before we get any further into the video, I'm just gonna throw it out there that you should probably subscribe to my channel because there'll be more things coming out every now and again. I have a new camera, so I have no choice but to, be active. And I'm also just enjoying having fun on YouTube in the way that I had fun when I first started creating content on Instagram and on TikTok. So it's good to be a novice again, and I'm just playing around, I'm experimenting, I'm learning editing, I'm learning color grading, I'm learning a bunch of things. So stick around because we're having some fun on this channel. We're having some fun. First things first, I want to chat through what I use. So I am a Google Calendar girly. However, I am a physical planner girly first and foremost. But I do use Google Calendar so that things can sync across my devices because I do not bring my physical planner outside of my house. So when I'm on the go and want to know and want to get back to someone really quickly about whether or not a day works for me or whether or not I'm available, having everything synced to the calendar on my phone is really important, and it helps me just navigate those things easier. So I use Google Calendar, and that is synced to my phone. The planner that I use physically is from Cloth and Paper. I use, I believe, the horizontal weekly planner, and it is the 2024 dated version. I used the 2023 dated version last year. I really like the planner. I originally, when I first started using Cloth and Paper last year, started off using the, what's it called? I had started off using the daily version, but I found that the daily version just had a level of detail that I did not need. And if I really wanted to plan like my days down to the hour, that's something that I would do on Google Calendar. I have all of this in my Louis Vuitton agenda cover. It is the largest size from Louis Vuitton. I got it last year, and personally, I love it. But any agenda cover will do. I know Cloth and Paper has an agenda cover as well. And the size that I have for my Cloth and Paper inserts, I believe, are the A5 or the A6. The one, it's compatible with the largest version of the Louis Vuitton agenda. I also have an array of pens, erasable pens, highlighters, and colored pens. I don't use highlighters really for my planners. I use that more so for reading books, reading my Bible. I use erasable pens for, things that probably may not, I don't really use it in my planners, come to think of it, but it comes in clutch when I'm handwriting things and brainstorming content. When I'm brainstorming scripts or brainstorming voiceovers, storylines, all of that stuff, I have an erasable pen. And they are the Friction erasable pens. I personally think they are really good. I probably will link all of this in the description box. I also have gel pens, and this is typically what I use for my to-do lists, which we'll talk about later. And then I also have colored pens, which are primarily what I use for my planner when I'm writing in my physical Cloth and Paper planner. Not last, but I also have, separately from my physical planner, I have list notepads from Papier. They're essentially just notepads that are for list making. There's nothing spectacular about them, but I like them because they're customizable, so it says my name on the front cover. I don't know if they actually sell these anymore, which is a bummer because I checked a couple of weeks ago to re-up and I could not find them anywhere on the website, which would be very disappointing, but I'm sure I can definitely find the same or similar concept elsewhere because they really were just thin notepads. That's it for the things that I use on paper, but I also use a couple of apps for project management, specifically Trello. I use Trello because that's what my management agency uses for project management. So all of the things that I have for work is what you would find on Trello, specifically sponsored campaigns any travel, any brand trips, things like that, anything that's essentially going through my management agency, which is anything related to sponsored content or gifting, that would appear on Trello. And I'm not even the one who made that structure, but I do find it to be pretty helpful. I've used Asana in the past with a previous management agency that I was with, and I have to say that between Asana and Trello, I do prefer Trello. I've also used Trello on my own before to content plan, but I no longer use that for content planning. But truthfully, when it comes to brainstorming content and keeping track of content, I'm a pen and paper girly as well. So any notebook, I've run through so many notebooks, and that's what I would use. Let's chat through the process. So my process for actually planning each week, I will start off by looking at my Google Calendar or looking through my emails to add particular events to my planner for the week. Now, I will say though that typically the best way to go about this is to add events to your calendar as soon as you accept them or as soon as they come in. Because that way, like if someone reaches out in the middle of the week and is like, hey, are you available on March 5th? I'm just using March 5th as a random example. If I waited until the week of to add all of those events to my calendar, I would just get discombobulated and I would probably double book myself. So as soon as an event comes in, I'll add it at least to my Google Calendar if I'm out and on the go, but ideally also my physical calendar. But because everything will get added to my Google Calendar first, I just make sure to cross-check everything and put it in my physical calendar as well. I'll also check Gmail for particular events, meetings, things like that. But so essentially, I'm cross-referencing between my inbox and my Google Calendar to put things down in my physical calendar as well. For dates that are tentative or for things that are tentative, instead of writing them directly in my calendar, I will simply put them on a page flag, one of the page flag sticky notes. I actually don't think I mentioned this, but I also have a bunch of stickies from Cloth and Paper. So what I typically like to do is just hold a particular time block in my physical calendar. I don't hold it in my Google Calendar because it's not set in stone, but in my physical calendar, it's more of a mental note. So I'll just write on a, like, for example, on a note, like hold this date for a particular brand event or hold for dinner with so-and-so. And once it's actually locked in, then I'll take the sticky away and I'll actually physically write it in. I just like not having to, the pens aren't erasable or the colored pens aren't erasable. So I don't want to put something in my calendar with the colored pen unless I'm sure I'm going to follow through and I'm sure it's locked in. Then I will follow up and put any deadlines and due dates for work for the week. So a lot of that again looks like sponsored campaigns. It'll look like, you know, draft due, insights due, analytics due, concept due. I'll use sticky notes again from Cloth and Paper just for a little extra razzle dazzle, and I'll put that on one side of the planner. So specifically any deadlines and deliverables I'll put on the side of the week or the side of the day that is not grid, that doesn't have a grid. And then things that have particular time blocks, I'll put on the side that does have a grid. That way I can just look ahead at my week and know like, hey, if I have something due on a particular day, maybe that shouldn't be the day that I have 3-4 events. Or if it is the day that I have 3-4 events, then maybe I should, I need to plan backwards and make sure that I actually finish the content or actually submit the draft a day before. I'll also, and similarly, I'll also put things like posting dates, posting content itself. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it requires a particular time block, especially if you have to scroll all the way back, or especially if there are very specific instructions that the brand gave. So I also will put posting dates on so that I know like, hey, the day that this brand wants me to post, I'm gonna be in the middle of a 10-hour flight. Like maybe I should request and ask the brand to move for a different day. I typically don't like to post sponsored content on travel days because those tend to be logistical nightmares. And so just having all of that on paper physically helps me visualize what days work better for certain tasks, for certain deliverables, for certain deadlines. After I've put everything, after I've put appointments, after I've put deadlines, after I've put meetings and dinners and events and all of that stuff in, I will make a general to-do list. I'll make one generally for the week, so big overhead, like things that I want to keep in mind this week. And then I'll have a more specific to-do list that I'll put in my to-do list notepad. And this will include anything large or small. It could be something as small as reply to or call grandma or, text back so-and-so. Or it could be something as big as, film this video or edit this video. Anything that I want to devote some time to that I need to remember to do, I need to put down in my to-do list. Why? Because if it's not in my to-do list, it's probably not getting done. I simply will not remember. There's so much going on. And on top of that, the process of writing it down helps me internalize it. And on top of that, I just love the feeling of checking things off. So everything is gonna get written down. And then I use my to-do list to help think through certain time blocks throughout the week. So if I have something like, film sponsored post for so-and-so, I'm gonna say, let's just say Sephora because I was on the Sephora squad. Film Sephora squad video, right, on my to-do list, I need to have a general sense of how long that might take. Let's say it'll take around 2 hours to film, or maybe I need to film and edit because I'm on a tight crunch, then I'll say 2.5, 3 hours to film and edit. That helps me because now I'm going to look at my week and I'm going to plug specific time blocks into my calendar on Google Calendar, or just generally speaking, make a mental note of when I need to do stuff. So sometimes I've done that and it's become clear like, oh girl, you gotta film this at like 8 a.m. So like on a particular day, I'm like, great, I'm going to the gym, I'm getting up, I'm going, and by 8 I need to start filming because that video needs to be in by noon that day, or that's just the best time to film because the sun is in a particular direction. All of these are the things that I keep in mind, but all of that is to say that having a to-do list is helpful because I take the items from my to-do list and sort them through my calendar in particular time blocks. For smaller things like text so-and-so back or respond to DMs or email so-and-so, what I typically would do is just lump all of that under the time block of an admin block. So I'll just set aside maybe like an hour or maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on how many admin things I need to do. And I will lump that together and just like block off an admin block on my calendar to spend time just going through a lot of the smaller things. So to-do list is helpful because I take the items on my to-do list and I basically plug and chug them into different time blocks that I have throughout the week. I also just do take, some weeks are stronger than others. All of the things that I'm saying are in my like highest capacity, most ideal weeks. Admittedly, I don't always fully meal prep or meal plan, but when I do have busy weeks and I want to make sure that I stay on top of eating or want to make sure that I'm not eating out too much, I will take a sticky note also from cloth and paper and just write out the meals that I plan on having. If there are particular nights where I have brand dinners or I'm going out to eat, and specifically I do this for dinner because me, like breakfast and lunch, breakfast I'll have like a protein shake and I'll always have that stocked, or a smoothie or something like boiled eggs, something like that. And lunch, I'm not really big on lunch, so it's typically breakfast and dinner that I'm eating. And so if I have a brand dinner, I'll plug that in just so I know that I don't have to account for a certain day. And then go about my week just keeping in mind that I've planned and I don't really have to think about my meals. And it also will help me place an order for grocery delivery at the start of the week. My color code, I'm just gonna briefly mention the fact that my planner is color coded. So things in pink, this was really supposed to be pink, but I think it comes off more as a red color. But things in red will be work things. So that'll be brand events, that'll be deadlines, anything that has to do with sponsored campaigns, anything that has to do with how I make my money is going to be in a pink red color. Anything in purple is going to be personal, so those are typically going to be appointments, hair appointments, nail appointments, things like that, doctor's appointments, all of those sorts of waxing, all of those things are going to fall under purple because those are personal appointments. Orange is going to be social, so whether that's hosting, whether that's getting dinner with a friend, whether that's just meeting up with someone or going to a party, all of that is going to be under orange. And I also forgot to mention that purple also, when I say personal, travel also will fall under that. So any travel that I have for personal reasons will be under purple. Blue, funny enough, blue used to be my like law color, like professional work. Like it used to be that pink was for content work and blue was for legal work. But since I'm not practicing right now, I don't really have a use for blue. So I pretty much just use blue for professional development or life development. So right now, blue is just used for the appointments that I have with my life coach. I'll use my blue pen for that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, for darker blue, I'll use darker blue for birthdays. I think that's really about it when it comes to how I color code. My color code when I was in law school was a lot more, there were a lot more colors used because you have things like extracurriculars, and then you have the personal, and then you have the travel. So my life is not as compartmentalized as it used to be, so I don't really use that many colors, but I like color coding and because it also helps me visualize whether or not there's balance in my life. So some weeks there might be a lot of red or there might be a lot of pink because there's just a lot of work. And I want to just make sure that I'm balancing that out with family time or social time or me time. So that's just a plug for color coding because I think it definitely helps me visualize what areas of my life are getting more attention and what areas might need some more attention in the future. One thing I will say, and I think you might get that it might be coming across in the video, I'm not someone who has to have every single minute of her day accounted for. I actually find that the best thing that helped me manage my time and stick to my plan was being flexible with my plan. And what I mean by that is like, there are always going to be things that I cannot account for. So for example, at the start of the week, like I might have that, I need to submit a video on Monday, but I don't know when the brand is going to get back to me. I don't know when they're going to want me to turn around the content. I don't know all of those things. And so that's ultimately probably going to come later in the week, and I can't plan for that. If I have every moment of every day accounted for, but I don't account for the things that like are probably if I have every moment of every day accounted for without any room for the unexpected, it's going to throw me off when I have to now squeeze in things that, that also need attention as well. So I would say give yourself flexibility, and once you get into the rhythm of the things that you're doing, you have a better sense of how long it takes you to do certain tasks, how long a brand or how long your boss might take to get back to you on something, how big a project might be and what it demands and what it requires of you. So all of these are things to consider because your planning is only as effective as your anticipation in a way, if that makes sense. Like, it's one thing to have everything on paper, but it's another thing to have an understanding of the way your life flows and how your work flows and what, appointments that you're gonna need and all of those things. So that's essentially how I plan my week. If you liked this video, if you want more videos like this, just talking about structure and organization and time management, feel free to let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe because I would love to see you here next time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.